Welcome back to Book Break. I've got a really fun selection of books to recommend to you today, and these are all books set on islands. Islands are such an amazing setting for a book. They can be used as a place of beauty, a place of isolation, or as an amazing setting to build a lot of tension, and I've got a bit of everything in here. The first book I'm going to recommend is Annie John by Jamaica Kincaid. This is a coming-of-age story set on the beautiful island of Antigua. It's about a girl called Annie who has an amazing relationship with her adoring, charismatic mother. But everything starts to change when Annie turns 12. She starts to question a lot of the cultural assumptions of her island community. She starts to challenge a lot of the things that she's learning at school. And most difficult of all for Annie to understand, her relationship with her mother changes. Her mother used to be a source of just unconditional adoration and now has become an adversary. So this is this really moving and also funny description of the end of childhood, and it's a modern classic for a reason. My next recommendation, Haven by Emma Donoghue, takes us way back in time to the 7th century in Ireland. So already on an island, but we're going to go to a much smaller one. The book is about a religious scholar who has a dream telling him to leave the world behind. And so along with 2 other monks, he sets off to find an isolated place to start a new monastery. And the 3 of them come across the impossibly isolated Skellig Michael, an island in the middle of nowhere. So this is a really haunting, vivid novel about survival so far from the rest of humanity. Emma Donoghue is already a very versatile writer. Each book I read from her feels like something brand new, and I will link below to a author spotlight video that I made all about her backlist. But even with that already said, everyone is saying that this book is really unlike anything she's written before. Then there's Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney, and as I said at the beginning, islands are a great setting for building tension and a really great setting for murder mysteries. One of the most famous is And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, but if you've already read that one a million times, then this modern reimagining is exactly what you're after. So in this book, the Darker family are reuniting for the first time in years on an island that every time the tide comes in is completely cut off from the land. So for 8 hours, the Darker family are completely stranded. And one by one, someone starts killing them off. With each death, we find out more about their dark family past, and there are so many twists. The island in The Mercies by Kieran Millward Hargrave is the Norwegian island of Varja, which in the Christmas of 1617 was struck by a terrible storm, one which killed off almost the entire male population of the island who were out on fishing boats at the time. So the novel is based on that true story, and it's about what became of the women left behind to fend for themselves, the power that they gained, and also the fear that they inspired in the hearts of men who arrived 18 months later and saw, instead of independent women surviving, a threat. The book is about relationships between women, friendships and love. It's about accusations of witchcraft, and it's about the community that builds somewhere as isolated as an island. Then I've got a summer read for you set on a Scottish island. This is The Last Summer by Karen Swan. Karen Swan is famously brilliant at bringing the settings that she chooses to life, and this time she has turned her attention to the Scottish island of St Kilda. The book is set in the 1930s, and it's about 2 people from drastically different worlds who meet and fall in love just 1 week before a storm hits the island and turns their lives upside down. The whole island is evacuated, and back on the mainland, the differences between these 2 seem insurmountable, and then a shocking discovery is made back on St Kilda, which brings secrets from the past to light. Wilder Girls by Rory Power is a really haunting YA novel set at an all-girls boarding school on an island after a mysterious illness called the Tox tore through this school, killing off many of the teachers and changing the girls' bodies in mysterious ways. It's a really tense book as we watch these girls turn savage, waiting for a cure that may never be coming. and then they discover that they might not be alone on the island after all. So this is queer, feminist body horror, and it's a book that will leave you with a lot of questions. The Light Between Oceans by M.L. Stedman is a real tearjerker. This is about a man called Tom who takes a job as a lighthouse keeper on an island which is about half a day's journey from the coast of Australia. So Tom lives there with his wife Isabel, totally alone on this island, and all they want is a child. After 2 miscarriages and a stillbirth, Isabel thinks that it's her grief causing her to hear a baby's cry. But then they discover a boat has washed up on the island. There is the dead body of a man in this boat and a living baby. And then the book is about this desperately sad choice that Tom has to make. He knows they need to report the death and help this baby find its family, but Isabel has already decided that the baby is a gift from God to their family. And it's so well written that you get really sucked in to supporting Isabel's choice to keep the baby, even as you know it's the wrong thing to do, which then breaks your heart 2 years later when the couple are sent back to the mainland and are forced to confront the reality of what they've done. And finally, The Disaster Tourist by Jan Cohen. This is about Yona, who has worked for 10 years for a travel company specializing in holiday packages to destinations devastated by disaster and climate change, so that tourists can go and see this for themselves and then volunteer and feel like they've made a difference. Now the company want to send Yona on a trip, an all-expenses paid holiday to the island of Mui, so she can assess whether Mui is devastated enough or whether they need to fabricate a catastrophe to make more money from this partnership. So the book is about our fascination with disaster, it's about the damage that companies can do and our personal responsibility for the companies that we work for, and it's also about climate change and protecting places like this island. And there are so many more really great books set on islands like this. Some of the most famous examples I can think of are Circe, which is set on the mythological island of Aiaia, or My Family and Other Animals, set on the real island of Corfu. So I'd love to know your suggestions. Do leave any of your recommendations in the comments below. And if you enjoy picking books based on their settings, then I will leave a link here to a video I made before on books set in small towns. So do click through for even more reading inspiration, and I'll see you next time.